All right, welcome back to another edition of our Thursday Night Live. My name is Gino D'Angelo. I'm a local Northern Michigan real estate agent. The reason for doing these is for you to get to know me better, ask questions, learn about the area. This is just an extension of the videos I currently make to educate you about what it's really like to live in Northern Michigan from any perspective you want. I've really enjoyed doing these. I've got to meet a lot of you. We've had some great conversations and I've really started looking forward to these lives. And whether you're watching it live with me tonight or you're watching the replay, I'm incredibly happy that you're here. I appreciate the support. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, want to know more about any aspect of Northern Michigan, please drop your questions in the chat. For those of you hopping on a little bit later, where are you from? If you're watching this later, drop me a comment. Where are you watching from? What area are you considering relocating to Northern Michigan from? And it's just always good to know what areas people are coming from and what is causing them to do so, because a lot of times I think people are moving here for a specific reason, and then I find people that are moving here for a completely different reason than I ever expected. So again, one of the reasons I love doing these is just getting to know you a little bit better, and then also being able to answer your questions live. It's oftentimes people ask questions that other people are wondering the same thing. So don't hesitate to drop a question in the comment box and I will be sure to answer them as long as they're appropriate, which they usually are. We're going to talk about three things tonight. My favorite, the general theme for the last couple of weeks before I get into this, is wintertime in Northern Michigan. It's an area, it's a hot button topic. A lot of times when people are relocating to Northern Michigan or considering relocating to Northern Michigan, one of the first couple of questions I get always has something to do with what are the winters like. I toured some people last week. I toured some people tomorrow who are relocating here from Florida, and they have questions about, what it's like to live here. There's a house, one of the houses they're going to look at has a really steep driveway, and somebody coming from Florida that intimidates them, and I can't blame them. So we're going to talk about all things winter in Northern Michigan. My favorite things to do in the winter, some upcoming events, and even some real estate. There are certain areas, believe it or not, in Northern Michigan that are designed for wintertime living, and we're going to get into that at the end of the episode tonight. So make sure you stick around, because everybody thinks of Northern Michigan as a summertime destination, which it certainly is, but the winters here have a lot to offer, especially with the winters being a little bit more lively. They're not as quiet as they once were. And I truly believe the holiday season in Northern Michigan might be as compelling or even more compelling to some people than the summertime. And believe it or not, I have a friend who only comes here in the winter to ski, and he rents his place out in the summertime. So there are people that love Northern Michigan winter, believe it or not. And, as a local, I love the fall, which we're in the tail end of. The winter, I love the stretch of Halloween to New Year's Day. I think that is one of the most fun times of year in Northern Michigan, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. And then it becomes from that January 1st, if you look at from January 1st until Memorial Day, those are the dog days of winter. And people don't like when I say this, but in the summer, as a local, I always say once we hit July 4th, summer goes quickly. And people hate when I say it, but when I tell them that, they're like, man, you are right. There's coincidentally, when New Year's Day hits, you are, from that point forward, you are in the dog days of winter, and you have to sort of manufacture your joy, manufacture your happiness, and find hope that spring is coming and the weather is going to improve, and find a winter sport, travel. We're going to talk about some of the things that I love to do in the wintertime. So before we get into that, we have our first question of the night. So let me show this from Michelle Smart. Hi, I'm in Southeast Lower Michigan. Where are the least expensive homes you can buy in Northern Michigan? Which is the most affordable area in Otsego County? That is a great question, Michelle. There are actually some great affordable areas in Northern Michigan. In fact, I was just on the east side of the state today looking at a beautiful waterfront property that the owners wanted to speak with me about listing. It's about an hour east of Petoskey. It was exactly, my GPS said it was exactly an hour from my office, which is in downtown Petoskey, where I'm right now. It's funny, once you get outside of, if you look at Petoskey, Harbor Springs, Boyne City, Traverse City, if you get outside of if you look at each of those individually, if you get outside of the center of town there, 5 or 10 minutes, and away from the water a little bit, it becomes very affordable. And the east side of the state is incredibly affordable. And I'm talking about even waterfront is incredibly affordable. We sold a house a couple of years ago to good friends of mine for $335,000 on Sugar Sand Beach. Great views. They rent it out a little bit. They enjoy it. And you can barely get a house in a subdivision of Petoskey for that. And they bought this great waterfront home. Not super big, but huge garage with a loft. And so it's funny you asked that, because I was just thinking today that, man, the east side of the state is still undervalued in my opinion. And I truly wonder, with the passing of time, if we're going to see more people electing to move there. It is, you get what you pay for. Sometimes it is a little bit more rural, but talk about bang for your buck. You really get a lot there. But to better answer your question, Otsego County is great. We sold a house. I think we sold a couple of houses this year over in Johannesburg, Lewiston, which is east of Gaylord, 15, 20 minutes away. Affordable houses over there. You talk about places like, Grayling, Elmira, East Jordan. Let me pull up my trusty map to better answer this question. Bear with me 1 second while I pull this up. I should have had it ready to go because I knew I was going to go here. If you look at places, let me zoom out. This is ready for what we're going to talk about later. If you zoom out and you look at even, Indian River is affordable, Wolverine, Vanderbilt, Boyne Falls, Gaylord, Johannesburg, which I was just talking about. So if you look at Gaylord, Vanderbilt, Elmira, Gaylord, Johannesburg, even down to Frederick, over to Lewiston, those areas are all extremely affordable. And if you want to talk about the Traverse City side of the state, Kalkaska is affordable, Kingsley, Fife Lake, Grawn. I think Grawn is a great place to live. If you're considering relocating to Traverse City and you don't want to pay Traverse City prices, this Grawn is 10 minutes from downtown Traverse City. Buckley, Mesick, if you just look at it from a wide angle view, all of these areas away from the water, these are all very, very affordable. So, Michelle, that's a great question. I'm sure it's something that a lot of people are wondering, and that's why we do these. So I appreciate the question. My good friend Lacey Horn said Christmas. Yes. Is it too soon? I had Candace, my assistant. Obviously I knew I was going to do the live tonight, and I like Christmas. I think when I was a kid, Christmas was good growing up, but then once I had a son, I feel like once you have a kid or a child, you get to re-experience Christmas all over again. And it's one of my favorite times of year. In fact, last week, I had a couple of not so nice comments about how much time I spent talking about the new Starbucks holiday cups, which, hey, they bring me so much joy for a couple bucks that I'm going to talk about them as often as I can. So I had Candace put up the Christmas tree. It is probably too soon. I'm a huge fan of getting a little bit closer to Thanksgiving before we start decorating for Christmas. But I'll just be transparent with you guys. I was really curious what it was going to look like in the studio. I didn't know. This is the tree we usually put up in the front room of the office. And recently somebody gave us a bigger tree. So we're putting a small tree in here. And I was really curious. About, sorry, so he's commented. I was really curious how it's going to look. It looks great. I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to check with my YouTube team and see what they think about leaving it here for the regular videos. I don't want to, timestamp too much or have too much of a distraction. But for this live, I love that the Christmas tree's here. It's definitely putting the Christmas tree spirit, because I can see what you see on the screen. So, between the Christmas tree, the Lions helmet, the little, the War Machine, Lego that Jeannie built, and the bottle of Vouv, which we give to our closing as a closing gift. I'm starting to build this studio to give you guys an example or show you guys what I'm interested in, to get to know me a little bit better, which is really interesting because I thought people would just watch these videos for the content, learn more about the area, the lives, to ask questions. But I was touring somebody last weekend that came to me through these YouTube videos, and they told me that they felt like they already knew me, and it was helpful to, when selecting an agent to help them buy a home, that they found somebody that they felt like they could connect with and they knew what they were getting. So often, forever, we were we advertised heavily on Zillow back in the day. So Zillow obviously still a great home search website, but back in the day we would put, we spent thousands of dollars. We would get the leads would come in, but they just wanted to see the house. They didn't care about who they were talking to or that sort of thing. So what I love about this is you guys get to know me. And if I feel like, you feel like I'm somebody that could help you buy a house and have a little bit of fun along the way, I'd love the opportunity. If not, keep watching the videos. There's a ton of free information here. And again, I always say this, but whether you're a buyer, renter, you want to visit Northern Michigan, you're going to stay in a short-term rental, you just want to know what the heck's going on up here from a local's perspective, I'm glad you're here. And that's what these videos are for. So I'm going to answer a couple more questions. I'm concerned about the number of gray days. Let me take a sip. That is a real concern. Seasonal. I'm not a therapist, although sometimes I have to pretend to be for my clients. Seasonal depression in Northern Michigan is a thing. And I even notice it myself when it's, we go, especially even this time of year, we go from it's, gray, nice day. And you feel so much different on a nice day than you do on a gray day. So I got a couple solutions. I don't know if these are helpful, Andrew, or not, but I'll just give you what I do. So make sure you take vitamin D. And look, I understand that if you have to go through this just to live in an area, maybe less than ideal. We do have sunny days in the winter, so it's not always gray, but we do have a fair share of gray days, specifically outside of the summer season. Make sure you take vitamin D. Make sure you exercise. Make sure you do the things. Read. Again, I'm not a therapist or a doctor, so don't take my advice. I'm just telling you what I do. I make sure I exercise every day. Shout out CrossFit Petoskey. I take vitamin D. I don't want to discount that not everybody has this ability, but I try to travel a lot in the wintertime. It's crazy how much busier we are in the summer and the fall than we are in the dead of winter. So it's easy to get away from a weekend. I talk about all the time how Traverse City's, it's a lot easier to fly to Traverse City than it once was. So, plan a couple of trips, plan getting some sun, vitamin D, exercise, and just do your best. I think there's a lot of ways from a mood standpoint to improve it. And I don't know if any of this is helpful. I'm sure somebody's going to roast me in the comments because that's what people in the comments do. But that's what I do to make it through. And that's a real concern. It's not as bad as you would think it is. But again, that's what I do. Michelle said, I enjoy your videos. They are very informative and helpful. Thank you so much, Michelle. If there's anything specific that you would like to learn about, I get people send me requests all the time. If there's anything you'd like to learn about, or an area or a specific subject or a part of, a town that's more important, tell me what you guys want me to make videos of and I'll make videos of them. Because at the end of the day, I do this for you to help make you a more educated buyer and help you make the home buying process a lot easier. Love the Christmas tree. I know it's great. I might just keep it up year round. That's just how much I love it. Greg says places to ice skate. We're actually going to talk about that, but since you asked it, I don't know if you're going to be here for the whole thing. I'm going to answer that right now. In Petoskey, there's actually every town has a few places to ice skate. So I'm going to run through them. Petoskey has the Winter Sports Park, which is an outdoor ice skating rink. We're actually going to talk about that later in the video. So if you can stay with me because that made the list of one of my favorite places to go in the wintertime. There is the Petoskey Ice Arena, which is owned by Sergei Fedorov's brother. They do a lot of children's hockey. They have some adult hockey there. I actually just sponsored one of my son's friends' hockey team. They do a really good job with the hockey program. If you're watching this, you're from Northern Michigan, and I missed any, drop it in the chat because I'm going to go off the top of my head. But if you go east, Indian River has a great outdoor ice rink at Cooperation Park. If you go up north, Sheboygan, I grew up in Indian River. I had a lot of friends that played hockey in Sheboygan. They've got a great hockey program. If you go down to Gaylord again, hockey's actually, believe it or not, you're hearing this, hockey is a big deal in Northern Michigan. So Gaylord, another example, they've got a great ice arena. That's like a big complex. They have like a pool. So that's a really cool place to hang out. Traverse City has center ice, which if you know, or maybe you don't know, the Detroit Red Wings actually go there to practice their training camp once a year. So that's obviously a big deal. So yeah, ice skating is a big thing. In fact, I've driven around subdivisions and people will have it like carved out, frozen. I don't know enough about making ice, but they have skating rinks in their backyard. So if ice skating is something that's important to you, I promise Northern Michigan will not let you down. So plenty of places to ice skate. Michelle says there is a lot of seasonal depression in Lower Michigan. Yeah, at least in Northern Michigan, you can get outside and enjoy the winter activities in Blue River. Michelle, that's a great point. I would say that, yes, if you're talking about winter in Northern Michigan and you're comparing, we're going to be doing a video. I'm going to go off the topic for a second. We're going to be doing a video comparing Northern Michigan to Lower Michigan. And I think one of the big differences, I believe that Northern Michigan versus Southern Michigan, Detroit, Northern Michigan where I am versus Detroit or Grand Rapids, the big difference is it doesn't get as cold in the southern parts, obviously, because it's closer to the equator. It's just science. I do think it's easier to be outside. I don't say easier. It's more enjoyable. There's more to do outside in the wintertime in Northern Michigan than there might be in Metro Detroit. And obviously, I love going to Metro Detroit. I spend a lot of time there, specifically in the winter when it's slow. And yeah, you can walk around downtown or go shopping, but we've got, which we're going to talk about all this tonight. So this is a great conversation starter. We're talking about, you can ski, snowshoe, ice fish, snowmobile. Those are things that are a lot harder to do in more metro areas. So I definitely think that gives Northern Michigan an advantage. With that being said, let's get into the program. What do I do in the winter? I want to talk about three things today. My favorite things to do in the winter, some local events to look forward to, and then also some housing, what it's like to live in Northern Michigan, what are the best areas to choose for winter living, which there are some great areas that really shine in the wintertime. So we'll get into all of that. So again, appreciate you being here. Drop all of your questions and I will answer every single one of them. Oh, great. This is a good question. Douglas Parrish asks, do you know much about the employment opportunity for skilled tradesmen? Do you find it hard to get electricians? If you are a skilled tradesman, please come to Northern Michigan because we need everything. We need plumbers, electricians, builders, roofers, drywall. If you are a skilled tradesperson, you will not have a hard time finding a job in Northern Michigan. And I shouldn't say this because I don't know for a fact, but my guess is given the lack of supply and the demand, you would probably even make a decent living doing it. I always talk about this. Our brokerage is on the first floor. There's a builder upstairs. They're always talking about needing skilled tradesmen. I've had a lot of guests on our podcast that talk about needing trades. We need trades. We need everything in Northern Michigan. We need doctors, tradesmen. There's just with the people coming here, we need people to service the people coming here. So yes, Douglas, we do need electricians. In fact, I've been looking for one to put some TVs up in our office, or not put TVs up, but move some outlets. And it's been, we're on like 3 different waiting lists. So if you could come in the near future, I can be your first job. Traveling will become more important. How difficult? This is another. You guys. This is why I do this. You guys ask the best questions. So Lacey, a good friend of mine, is answering. Andrew, we have TVC in Pellston Regional. Not too hard making your flights as long as you plan ahead. She's, as always, she's generally right. I want to be transparent and honest. We have great airports. Traverse City Airport is, again, I fly there all the time. I think it's a great airport. Pellston is closer actually, but it's a little bit more rural. You do in the dead of winter, you have to be careful because, weather's weather and you might get delayed. In fact, I flew to, I want to say maybe Miami last year in November. Yeah. And I actually flew from Detroit because I was just afraid that the weather was going to be bad. Or maybe it was in December. I was afraid the weather was going to be bad and it would just be easier to be, a nonstop flight instead of having to worry about connections. But as somebody that flies a decent amount in the winter, I haven't had a ton of bad experiences. But your flight might be delayed a couple of hours, one way or the other. Again, the caveat to that is we have had some really mild winters the last 2 winters. So as somebody who grew up here, the winters aren't the winters that I'm used to. In fact, growing up in Indian River, which is on the edge of the snow belt in Northern Michigan, if I show this map, is this area right here. Oh, what did I do? I don't know what I did. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. The snow belt, I'm going to zoom in on it, is right. Hold on, bear with me. Anyways, this area around Gaylord right here is a snow belt. And I grew up obviously a little bit north of that. And we used to ride our snowmobiles to school every day because in the winter, because there was just so much snow. And that is, just a fun thing to do. I don't know the statistics, but the snowmobile dealer in Indian River once told me that they sell like 75% as many snowmobiles as they once did, which is a great indication of how little snow we get. So long answer to a short question, given how mild the winters have been, I don't think it's as hard to fly from here. However, if there's a storm coming, and I know there's a couple of years ago, there was a big storm and around Thanksgiving and a bunch of flights got canceled. And that was a big deal. But other than that, no big deal. So back to the slides. what do I do in the winter? These are my 4 favorite things. Candace helps me build these slides, and she found this picture. Shout out to JoJo's Cookies. If you're ever in Petoskey and you want a really good cookie, JoJo's Cookies is just a little bit outside of town. They make great custom cookies. It's a fan favorite. They do a really good job. So my 4 favorite activities are: I love to ski and snowboard with my son. I like to sled at the Winter Sports Park, which I'm going to get to in a second. And it's a great place to ice skate, very close to downtown Petoskey. They have a ski hill. They've got ice skating. They've got a little warming hut. You can buy hot chocolate. I'm going to remove myself from this so you can see it. We're going to talk about this also. I love going to Avalanche Bay. It's an indoor water park located at Boyne Mountain, which is a ton of fun. It's a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon when it's blizzarding outside. And I cannot talk about my favorite things winter related without talking about the Starbucks holiday cups, because I might put one of those in the studio in the background just so everybody can see. So definitely one of my favorite things. These are the ski hills in the area. We've got the Highlands at Harbor Springs, which is also known as Boyne Highlands. Directly across the street from Boyne Highlands is Nubs Knob. I'll show you on a map. I gotta figure out what I'm doing with this map. Hold on one second. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit because a lot of people don't know this. So there's Harbor Springs, Petoskey, Boyne Highlands, and Nubs Knob. This is Nubs Knob right here. And then directly across the street is Boyne Highlands. So it is a constant debate who has what's the better ski hill in Harbor Springs. Is it Petoskey, or I'm sorry, is it Boyne Highlands? Is it Nubs Knob? But I'm a Boyne person. I like the resort. A lot of locals love Nubs Knob. They got great curly fries. They say they have the best snow in northern Michigan. And in fact, it's interesting enough, I know a lot of people that actually have passes to both because they're affordable enough that if you have a friend that goes to Boyne Highlands and you go to Nubs Knob or vice versa, if you buy one $80 ticket to ski on a Saturday afternoon in the height of the season, you are better off just having a season pass. I like the Highlands because I just like the resort feeling. It's nicer. They just put in a big 6-person lift, and but again, plenty of people love Boyne. There's also Boyne Mountain, which obviously Boyne Highlands, Boyne Mountain. Boyne Mountain is a little bit. Let me get the map back out if I can. Boyne Mountain is a little bit further down south. Petoskey is about halfway between Boyne Highlands and Boyne Mountain. So Petoskey, that's where I'm at right now. If you just go down 31, a little bit further, there's Boyne Mountain. That is definitely more of a resort. If I'm being transparent, I will tell you a lot of people don't like Boyne Mountain from a local standpoint because there are a lot of people there that come up for the weekend and try to ski for the first time, and they feel like that creates a little bit of a dangerous environment. But I like skiing at both. You can't go wrong. Mount Holly, Crystal, Hickory Hills, those are all closer to Traverse City. I do think, although you can ski from Traverse City, if you live in Traverse City, it is much more convenient to live on the Petoskey side if you care about skiing in the winter. So that's always a question I ask people. If you're coming here to ski and you want it to be convenient, Petoskey, Harbor Springs, Boyne might be a better fit than Traverse City. Although I've got tons of friends in Traverse City that come to Boyne and ski. Although, not very often, it's certainly something that's achievable or obtainable. So not the end of the world. And then Treetops and Gaylord, a great little resort. Gaylord is mainly known for golf, but they've got Treetops. They do have also the Otsego Club, which is a private ski hill that not a lot of people, it's members only, I believe, still, that not a lot of people know about. This is the picture. Believe it or not, this was the best picture we could find of Avalanche Bay. So this is the water park. They've got some big slides. They've got a wave pool, lazy river. Just a cool place to hang out. It's somewhat expensive. I think it's $100 a person or something like that. $50 a person, maybe. You can find some deals on the internet. Michelle had another question. Just my opinion, but I'd rather have a snowstorm. That's true. The hurricane, yeah. And I think, look, Michelle, I think that's why a lot of people are considering relocating to northern Michigan and other places from Florida is, I've never had a snowstorm and I don't want to say this lightly, but we've never had a snowstorm that I can remember, take out houses or entire areas like the hurricanes do. So I definitely think it's easier to deal with the hurricanes than it is. Deal with the snowstorms than it is the hurricanes. This is the Winter Sports Park, which I told you about. Greg, if you're still watching, this is the ice skating rink. There's actually two. There's the ice skating where everybody can ice skate, and there's the hockey area. Again, hockey is a really big thing in Northern Michigan. This is just an example of that. Also, something to think about, and I mentioned this earlier, Northern Michigan has a ton of trails, and this is just a short map of the areas we cover in all of the snowmobile trails, which also in the summertime double as ATV trails. You will never run out of areas to snowmobile or four-wheel if you live in Northern Michigan, and doing off-road activities is sort of your thing. And it goes everywhere, whether it's Boyne Falls, Petoskey, Traverse City, east to Indian River, north to Mackinac City, or even in the UP, there is no shortage of places to ride. In fact, when I grew up in Indian River, this is a fun story. We one time snowmobiled. The winters were a lot different then. We snowmobiled from, let me zoom out. I'll show you the path we took. So we snowmobiled from Indian River all the way through over to Lansing, and then from Lansing to Mackinac City, there's a snowmobile trail, goes right in front of the airport. Then once you get to Mackinac City, they would shuttle you over the bridge to St. Ignace, and then there was an ice bridge from St. Ignace to Mackinac Island. I'll zoom in so you can see how close that is. It's frozen, and they used to have so St. Ignace to Mackinac Island, they would have, the ice was frozen, and they would have pine trees that would show you where to go, and there would be a little bit of slushy water. And I remember being a little kid and being scared to drive over the slushy water, but then snowmobiling around Mackinac Island and then coming back in. That was definitely a full day trip, but definitely just an example of why Northern Michigan is such an interesting place to live. So if you love outdoor activities, you're going to love Northern Michigan because, again, there's just no shortage of that kind of stuff here. And one of the more underrated things to do in the winter are a lot of the wineries have winter wine tasting. And I believe this is Petoskey Vineyards. You go outside, they have fires. During COVID, the igloos became really big everywhere, and they sort of just stuck in Northern Michigan. So a lot of great places to hang out outside in the wintertime and drink wine if you're into that thing. My sister added, that was a fun snowmobile trip, terrifying as a kid, but a great memory. Yeah, that's one of my core memories also because we did it one time, and I don't know why it sticks in my head because, it was definitely a little bit scary, but a lot of fun to do. Go to the movies. We have fun fact, if you go to the movies, you're going to see one of our ads there. We've always, not always, but for a long time, we've advertised at the movie theater. So you're not going to be able to get away from me there either. It seems like more of the movie companies put out good movies in the Christmas break time. Petoskey Cinema, right, not downtown Petoskey, but just outside of downtown Petoskey is a great place to go watch the movies. Every town sort of has their own movie theater, and definitely something fun to do in the wintertime when you're looking for something to do that maybe you don't do in the summer when you're crazy busy doing summer stuff. Elk viewing. There are actually a few herds of elk in Northern Michigan closer to the Wolverine Gaylord area that you can actually see. And as somebody that's lived here their whole life, I still think it's a big deal to see the elk. So my guess is if I've been here my whole life and I think that's a big deal, then others will too. So that's one of the more underrated things to do. Ice fishing. Northern Michigan is great for fishing. It's something that my son has really gotten into. There are so many different types of species of fish, and there's so many different ways to fish here. You can fly fish on the river. You can fish from shore. You can fish from boat. My personal favorite, you can do a charter and pay somebody to help you catch the fish and clean it and bring it back in. I'm not much of a fisherman, but again, my son loves to do it, so that's my contribution. But in the wintertime, I know a lot of people that love to ice fish, and they put these little – if you're from Michigan or Northern Michigan, you're familiar with ice fishing, you already know this. But if you don't, the water's frozen. Some people drive their vehicles out there, hopefully when the ice is thick enough. And, they put these little huts up, cut holes in the ice with auger and fish. And it's just, again, it's a great way to pass the dog days of winter. This is actually the inside of Pour, which is a great restaurant in downtown Petoskey. And a local insider tip is going to restaurants in the winter from a local's perspective is so much better in the summer. in the sense that you can get in, especially with as busy and as many people have come to Northern Michigan in the recent history. The summertime, if you don't, I'm talking anywhere. If you don't have a reservation, you're not going to get into that restaurant. And the hard part is there are a handful of restaurants in Northern Michigan that don't take reservations. So going out to eat on a Friday or Saturday in the summertime, specifically in Northern Michigan, is daunting. And then the winter comes and you walk right in. You don't make reservations. You can decide in 20 minutes we're going to Pour, which is one of the most popular restaurants in downtown Petoskey, and it's probably going to look very similar to this picture. Maybe there'll be one or two people. There might be one or two people at a table, and it's just quiet. You can sort of go about your business and just enjoy a more laid back feel. Greg said, "Oh, glad he's still here." Speaking of winter wine tasting, I think pouring in a tasting room would be a fun part-time gig for a pending retiree like me. I could not agree more. I think Northern Michigan, if you're a pending retiree like Greg, Northern Michigan has so many different employment opportunities if you don't care about, feeding your family or supporting yourself or building your career. If you're just looking for something to do to make some extra money or get out of the house or, do something you love, there's golf rangers, there's some bartenders, there's working at Home Depot, there's, hey, look, some of those people become realtors, pouring at one of the wineries. I mean, yeah, there is a ton of great employment opportunities, and you're going to meet a ton of people and have what I would assume is a very fun working environment. So no, Greg is spot on with that. Now let's talk about some of the upcoming events. Again, I've talked about this the last couple of lives. We're getting into the time of year where it's a little bit slow here right now. You go from the summer, it goes from summer, kids go back to school, especially with a lot of out-of-towners or out-of-staters. Schools don't start. In Michigan, schools start after, at least in Northern Michigan, schools start after Labor Day. A lot of places, they're starting in the middle of August now. So it definitely gets quieter towards the middle of August to Labor Day. So summer ends sort of there. We've got local summer where the weather's still nice into Halloween. Then it gets quiet. It's pretty dreary and ugly outside. It was 47 degrees and pouring all day today here in Petoskey. But we are ramping up for, we got next week, the week after Thanksgiving. And then once Thanksgiving hits, you're into December, getting ready for Christmas, New Year's, and then you're into winter. So some great events coming up. These are just a handful of them. If you want the full list, we have a newsletter that comes out every week. Drop your email address, and we'll make sure you get signed up for that. So this is the Steel Drum Band. They are at a couple of these events. If you don't know the Steel Drum Band, it's the Petoskey High School Band. They play steel instruments, and it is something tremendous to watch. These kids are so talented. They draw a crowd. You can actually see in this picture. This is what it's like everywhere they go. They just have tons of people that watch and dance, and they play, some great music. Again, this picture is from the Downtown Petoskey Open House, which is one of my favorite events, which is coming up quickly here the first week of December, that for the first Friday in December. And they're at all of the tree lightings, and they go to Traverse City. I've even heard of them going, some places further downstate. So those kids do a really good job. Santa Parade. This one is Boyne City. Boyne City has a great Santa Parade. All of the local areas, Petoskey, Boyne, Harbor Springs, Charlottesville, all do. I don't think Charlottesville does. So I'm correct myself. Boyne, Harbor Springs, and Petoskey all do a great job with tree lightings, Santa parades, and they're really one of the best times in the winter in Northern Michigan. So the Santa Parade in Boyne they have a parade with the local businesses. Santa shows up, greets the kids. A couple of years ago, though, the Grinch was there, which was an issue. Luckily, the local Boyne City police arrested him and put him in a cop car, so he did not spoil Christmas in Northern Michigan. Michelle asks, are you allowed to live off-grid on a piece of property that you purchase, and how hard would it be to buy land and put a structure on that manufactured own trailer? Michelle, another great question. I really appreciate it. Not hard at all. We've sold houses. We sold one this year where they didn't have any plumbing, any electricity, and it was just sort of a off-grid cabin. Now, the caveat is you have to find the area that allows you to do it. But most areas outside of, downtown Traverse City, Petoskey, Harbor Springs are obviously not going to let you do this, which that's probably not where you want to live anyways. But yeah, if you found a piece of property, you could put there's people, if you drive through the rural parts of Northern Michigan, there are people who have RVs that, they build roofs over them, so they just live there. And I think it's a great, very, very affordable way to live in northern Michigan. And RVing is a growing trend here. There's some really nice RV parks. There's also some people that do it again off grid and just buy a piece of property and back up. Yeah, I can definitely help you find a manufactured home, super common. Trailers a little bit easier. Yeah, no problem with any of that here. These are some of the dates. If you're going to be in northern Michigan, are you looking for something to do? These are some of the dates: Petoskey Winter Carnival, Indian River Riverfest, East Jordan Snow Blast, Mackinac City Winterfest. We're going to get to that. They have some outhouse races, which is really interesting. Charlevoix Winter Carnival, Gaylord, Boyne City. As you can see, northern Michigan really, nobody in northern Michigan wants to pretend that the winters aren't hard. And not so much that they're hard, they're just so different. They're so vastly different than the summer times. So the local communities are always trying to get, the local chambers of commerce, the local businesses are always trying to get people to come to northern Michigan in the wintertime. So there's no shortage of events to try to bait those that want to come here. But even I can't say this enough, even if, coming to northern Michigan, and as somebody that loves to do a lot of stuff and is constantly involved in every possible thing known to man, I like the slowness and the stillness of the winter. I think it's a great time to recharge. I think it's a good time to, for me, business plan or think about what's going to happen in the year coming ahead. It can be a good time for you and your family to plan your year. What vacations are you going on? What, family trips are you going to take? What are we doing for this person's birthday? Where are we going for spring break? That sort of thing. So I don't want to discount. I think we live in a society, and this is a little bit of a rant. I think we live in a society that we feel like we always have to be busy or always have to be doing something. And I think sometimes we need to embrace just the stillness of life and sometimes understand that winter's here for a reason. And although we're not bears, maybe we could take a page out of their book and hibernate a little and just, again, rest and recharge. And if you've, had a busy summer, fall, into the holidays, sometimes when January hits, you're ready for a break. And then January, February, and once you get past those 2 months, March comes and we start getting glimmers of hope. Although I do think this is a personal thing, but I do think March is the worst month of the year in northern Michigan because it's still like the sun peeks through like it's going to come, but then you might get 2 feet of snow. And it seems like we always get that late March, early April snowstorm that sort of kicks us all in the gut and makes us realize that we're not quite done with it yet. And then if you're, a sports fan, April hits and they always do, the sports teams in Detroit always do what's called April in the D because that's when, the Tigers start and, all the sports are going at the same time or most of them at least. So, it's not as hard as we think it is. One of the things that this is something else that I personally like, a lot of the restaurants in an attempt to get you to dine at their establishments in the winter when it's slow, do trivia nights. It's a lot of fun. Usually there's some kind of prize. A lot of the restaurants here do them and they'll do themes. It'll be movies, it'll be history, it'll be football, sports, whatever. But if you've never done a trivia night and you're in northern Michigan and you're looking for something to do, they're a lot of fun. They usually have food specials, drink specials, or just, something fun to get you in the door. I mentioned before the Mackinac Pepsi International Outhouse races. I've been to these 100 times. It's where a bunch of local businesses in Mackinac City get together, not local, and they come from a distance. And these kids build these outhouses, and they race them like drag race style, where it's 4 people with one sitting in them, and they push, and whoever is the winner at the end of the day wins $500. They do it in the Chef Warriors parking lot right across from Dixie Saloon. If you've ever been to Mackinac, that's right smack dab in the center of everything. It's hard to miss. So we've talked about the events. We've talked about my favorite things in northern Michigan. Let's talk about where do you want to live in the wintertime. But before we do, I'm going to answer Michelle's question. What universities and colleges are in the area for soon high school graduates? Good question. This is an area, in all honesty, that I think northern Michigan is probably lacking a little bit. Although with online, it's probably like everything else. The accessibility to online, from whether it's shopping or going to college, has really made northern Michigan a little bit easier to bear. We have a great community college, there's two of them. We have a great one in Petoskey, and we have a great one in Traverse City. We've got North Central Michigan College. We're actually going to have the president of the college is going to be on the podcast, and then we're working. We're trying to coordinate dates with his office in the next month or so. Great college. They do they've got a basketball team, a volleyball team. They've done a really good job of not only being a college, but being a real asset to the community that they've had. They're doing some like short certificate classes. They did some great summer programs. My son did one, actually did two. One was like guitar lessons and one was young entrepreneurs. So they do a really good job of outreach in the community and also offering a 2-year, a lot of associate's degree programs. The same thing with, I think it's called Northwestern Michigan University in Traverse City, another great community college. Gaylord also does have the University Center where I believe it's like a hub that you can take several online classes. So yeah, Northern Michigan, we do, if you go just a short drive across the bridge, we have Lake Superior State University, which is a 4-year university. A lot of people I know have gone there. Not that far away, great option. But again, in Michigan, we have, Central a couple hours away, Ferris a couple hours away. I went to Oakland University 3 hours away, and then you've got the big ones, Michigan State. They're not that far away. Although if you want to stay in Northern Michigan, you're going to be confined to one of the local colleges. Good question again. So if you're talking about where to live, one of the areas that I think is interesting is the property which is known as Boyne Mountain Resort. And that's where all of these are. And if you look, obviously these homes have gotten very expensive. There's, all of them, these are very large houses. I think we have the next slide. We have So if you look at, there's plenty of big ski chalets like you would find out west located on the Boyne Mountain Resort property. Now, a lot of these you can rent. A lot of these are large homes, as you can see in the next slide. These are big homes, 7 bedrooms, 6 bath. They're expensive because most people rent these out to 2 or 3 families. Some own them just because they love everything Boyne Mountain has to offer, such as, Boyne Mountain, we talk about it a lot for skiing, but they also have golf and they've got a lot of year-round activities on top of it being in a really cool location in Northern Michigan, close to Boyne City, close to Petoskey. This is closer. So this is north to Boyne Highlands, which is in Harbor Springs. Boyne Mountain, if you go back, this is in Boyne Falls. Boyne Mountain Resort. Boyne Highlands, this is located in Harbor Springs. So these, again, we're going to get to a couple of the houses. This one's currently listed 1.69, 4 bedroom, 3 bath. This is, again, a very large 3-car garage. This is a large house located on a golf course. And I know this is obviously a very expensive home, but also in terms of Northern Michigan, this is starting to become entry-level, nice, bigger home, and it's in an HOA. All the homes look very similar. So if you're looking for a nice house in Northern Michigan, and you're relocating from an area with expensive homes, this might seem like a value to you because it's definitely a good lifestyle. Greg asks, related to Michelle's question, do the local colleges provide? Yeah. So they do, and actually, Greg, the local high schools do a good job of this also. I was just at a volleyball game in Boyne City, and across the gym, there was the Performing Arts Center. I had never really been in the Boyne City High School because, I had never had a reason to. So I peeked in there, and it was like an auditorium. And the kids were like, they had like a huge like makeup room, and they had a huge like dressing room. And I'm not, super familiar with the arts, but looked like these kids had everything they needed to have a pretty serious production. So Boyne has that. Petoskey, Harbor Springs has that. Petoskey has the Crooked Tree Art Center, which is a great way for adults to be involved in the arts and the cultural arts scene. In Bay Harbor, there's the Great Lakes Center for the Arts, which is new. That's a great place, again, for the performing arts. So yeah, that's we definitely have that covered for you in Northern Michigan as well. Michelle mentioned I'm a Ferris State grad and have enjoyed the slow pace of Big Rapids. Yeah, my sister Candace and her husband went to Ferris State. I've got some friends that went to Ferris State. That's a pretty popular location for people in Northern Michigan. It's not that far away, so definitely a fan favorite. Michelle asks, I'd like to know that too. My daughter is very involved in choir and wants to do musical theater while she's in college and after. Yeah, they have choir in Petoskey, Boyne City, Traverse City, those schools all have choir. My son goes to the private Catholic school here, and they have a great choir that he's not involved in, but several of his friends are, and they love it, and they do a really good job with it. So back to the housing. These are areas that specifically this house or this area in Boyne Highlands this is probably, if you're looking at the two between Boyne Highlands and Boyne Mountain, Boyne Highlands is probably the more year round because of the golf. These houses are all located on a golf course. Boyne Mountain does have a golf course, but they're also, that's more of a ski and ski out. And I do think that is something we're talking about, that Boyne Mountain, Boyne Highlands. I want to pull my map back up because I love using this thing. Let's see here. So if you go back down here let's go back to the ski hills. So this area, and we just sold a couple of these recently. So this area in front of Boyne Highlands is called the Hamlet Village on the other side right here. Like this area right here. We actually just sold one of those that closed yesterday for $434. I'll pull it up here in a minute. So there are some very affordable houses. We sold one over here, and then about a month before that, we sold one over here, and I'm going to show both of those to you. Those are very affordable houses. One, the individual bought the one that was on Wild Cherry Lane, which is right. You can see Boyne Highlands from his house. He bought it because from a long-term investment, he thought, I'm going to live here for a couple of years. It's a great house, great location, love to ski, great way to live a Northern Michigan lifestyle. And then when I'm ready to move, there's no restrictions, so I'm going to short-term rent it. So not only does he get to live in it, let the value go up, build some equity. When he goes to his next house, he's got this investment. And the same with these people who bought on the other side. They bought it sheerly to rent it. Their house is the last house before you turn it into Nubs Knob. And I'll show you both of those in a second. But great. Michelle is asking, what is that? And I think she's asking because Lacey said we have the Young Americans. Lacey, feel free to comment. I'm familiar with the Young Americans, but I'm not super familiar. The Young Americans, actually, let's do this. Let's just Google it the old-fashioned way so I can make sure I explain it. Let me add this to the 1 second. So this is, I know enough of this. It's a musical performance organization. I know it's a nonprofit. They perform, if anybody knows this, correct me if I'm wrong. They perform in Boyne Highlands, and I think maybe Boyne Mountain, but it's a really popular thing. These kids come here from around the country. I believe they're housed with locals. Let's see what this website says. Yeah, it's basically a traveling performing arts. They do summer camps. Yeah, this is, if you're interested in the Young Americans for the performing arts, I won't take too much time on it, but it is worth looking into. All right, back to this. So these are the two houses that I was telling you about. This one sold for I think this one ended up selling for over list price. It went for $453. So this one is funny. This is it's a good conversation about what's going on in valleys in Northern Michigan. This house was move-in ready, great location across the street from this house, from the house on the bottom. This one ended up selling for about 20 grand over list price, and the one on the bottom sold for 40 grand under list price, meaning, similar houses. One was much better condition. One needed a lot of work. Very similar. If you look on the map over here to the left, that's how close they were to each other. I mean, super close. Great locations for skiing, everything Northern Michigan. And the one that needed a little bit of work sold for less. The one that was move-in condition sold for a little bit more than asking. And that's what we're seeing across the board is the houses that are move-in ready are selling for a premium, and the houses that need a little bit of work are selling for a discount because people are busy. They've got to build in the hassle of having to fix up the house into their budget, and that's just sort of how it turns out. So that is what's going on in Northern Michigan in the wintertime. We've got the events. We've got a lot of fun stuff to do. If you happen to find yourself in Northern Michigan or you're thinking about relocating to Northern Michigan, build your winter plan. Think about, what do I want to do? How am I going to pass the time? Andrew McNaughton asked, do subdivisions get overrun with seasonal renters mixed with homeowners? You guys asked some great questions tonight, and I really appreciate this. The answer is, Greg, I'm going to answer that question. Greg did mention, I'm going to talk about the Interlochen Performing Arts because that's a big deal here too. Subdivisions, they don't, outside of these two, do a little bit. And I don't want to say overrun, but these two subdivisions, this area, if you look at these two dots on the map, that area has turned into a little bit of a rental area. I don't know of any other subdivisions that get overrun with renters. But given the location of these two, I would tell you that they've just became such prime areas for people to rent, that it's a little bit of what goes on there. Greg asked, Michelle, I believe, Interlochen. One second. Interlochen has, I can pull it up here in a second, but Interlochen Performing Arts, that's over in Interlochen, which is just outside of, it's outside of Traverse City. That is a school for the performing arts, school centered around the performing arts. They do also have some summer camps. So let me just pull this up. I'm going to share my screen. I was not planning on talking about this, but since it came up, it's worth talking about. So let me share the screen. If you want to learn more about Interlochen Center for the Arts, they got the boarding school, they have a summer camp, you can do it online, college. This is one of the premier, I can do a little research on this for you. I think it's one of the premier performing arts schools in the country. And I know it's a really big deal to this area, especially on that side of the state. So some very famous people have gone here, as well as, many others. So I do believe they have I think there's tuition for the high school, but yeah, very, very, very prestigious high school. So I'm glad that came up. Here's our website, interlochen.org, if you want more information. So thanks so much for all the information. Sorry, bombarded. No, this is what this is for. I come on here to ask questions. One day I envision these lasting for 2 hours because we have so many people asking questions. But I'm telling you, the questions you ask are probably, hundreds and hundreds of people watch these lives, whether they're watching right now with us or after the fact, which is most of the case. These questions are great. And not only is it me talking about what I think is important, it's also the opportunity for me to answer questions that you found important. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. I was actually just looking at my phone because I was going to ask you guys to do me a favor and help me get my 700 subscriber, but that actually happened while we were talking. It's too bright. I can't see. Let me see if I can do this a different way. Let me try. I want to show you guys. We just got our 700 subscribers, so I really appreciate all of you that have subscribed, that have shared this with your friends. I was going to ask you a favor to help me get my 700 subscriber because I was at 698 before this started. So I got 2 while we were talking. So extremely grateful. A lot of those subscribers have come in the last couple of months as we've really ramped up the videos and went more in depth and started doing lives and tried to make these just the best, the most resourceful bits of content that we possibly can to help you guys out. So I'm glad you've enjoyed them. If you have any other questions, I'll stick around for a few more seconds, but if not, I will let you enjoy your Thursday night, and I hope to see you next week. Now we're going to go a little bit further into the benefits of buying and selling in the wintertime, and then the week after that's Thanksgiving, and I'm going to the Detroit Lions game. My intent is to bring my computer and do a quick live before the game, just to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving, find out what you're thankful for, share with you what I'm thankful for, and just continue the streak. So again, thank you so much for showing up every week. Greg, Michelle, Andrew, Lacey, Michael, everybody. There was one more, Douglas, all of you, my sister, everybody, Amber, everybody that's asked questions. You guys, I really appreciate the support, and I hope you have a great night.